Hello? The technical guy upstairs, can you switch your microphone on, or do I have to do something? Hello, test? Can you put it out, please? Can you maybe put it where your badge is a little bit higher, not on your shoulder, because it doesn't pick up sound. More in the middle, please. Test. Otherwise we hear I can't run it. So, just put it up.
Test.
Okay.
So, my name is Falk Buttner, and in the next half an hour I will talk a little bit about my company. It's called Die Versuche der Eitelkeit, and we are a visual effects studio since 1998, and we use Blender on a daily basis for commercial productions. We don't do very special or very sophisticated things. It's mostly modeling and UV mapping and texturing, and yeah, but we use it commercially, and this is why I'm here, and to show you how we use it in our pipeline. So we are a small visual effects studio, and small in our case, these are some photos of the studio. Small means that we have a core team of 2 artists, 1 production assistant, and the office is set up so that 7 artists can work parallel. We try to get involved in each project as early as possible, just to be more efficient and to avoid some surprises in the post-production. So we try to start to work with the clients in pre-production, and then we are on shootings always, just to check that we don't do anything strange, like put tracking markers somewhere where we don't need them, and things like this. And so that you get an overview of what we do, I show you our demo reel. And I need sound for the laptop. I know it's so, okay. This is our current demo reel. It's about 4.5 minutes. Change resolution?
Yeah, change resolution, 1024.
Yeah, but it's 1024, I think.
Maybe it's an overlay problem.
Yeah.
Then you out now.
I know the resolutions. I'll solve it for this.
Okay.
I know it changed.
It's not cloned.
It doesn't work, so I don't clone it. I just move it to this screen. Scheiße. next. Talk like this. Now I hope it works. Also, I move it back to the beginning and then. Could you please make the music a little bit louder? Maybe the light a little bit. can see it's quite a variety and of different things we do for cinema or TV and also for corporate movies. So the next is the integration of Blender in our pipeline. We started using Blender in 2004, and the only reason why we choose Blender was just to save money. It was not because it could do something. Okay, it could do what we needed to have, what it can do, but the reason why we choose it was to save money. And since this time, we do about 98% of our modeling and mapping in Blender, and this is how our 3D pipeline is set up until this summer. Basically, we just exchange data between 3D Studio Max and Blender with the OBJ file format. And Blender was like a little bit outside the real production flow. Now we want to, or we are currently doing this, is that we have our pipeline even more parallel, so we can do complete projects only with Blender, so that 3D Max can be used for our projects, so we can work more parallel. And for this, now we made some tests with the Collada format. And yeah, I show you, this is our test. It's a lineup test, a very simple test, but for us it was very important that we have a scene, a basic scene modeled in 3D Studio Max, and then exported this with Collada to Blender, and rendered with the same camera, and then the same with Fusion. We exported it to Fusion. From Max to Fusion, you cannot go with Collada directly. You have to use the FBX format, because the Max Collada is strange sometimes. And then we overlaid these renderings on top of each other, like Blender and 3ds Max, and it fits perfectly, so it's the same camera, field of view and everything, and the same with Fusion. And then we made a difference notch, and you have only very little differences in the anti-aliasing, which can be adjusted, because we just use standard settings. That's the difference between Blender and Fusion, is almost nothing. And this is, it's very simple, but for us it was very important, because what we want to do is that we have, for instance, one shot, which we partly animate and render in 3D Studio Max, but we can give the camera to a Blender artist, and he can do other parts of the same shot in Blender, and then render only these parts out, and we combine everything in Fusion without having some strange edges or something like this. Because it's very efficient to work like this, and we worked, this is an example of a project which we did in the beginning of last year, and we had a couple of freelancers working for us, and they had Maya licenses, so we did the same process with Max and Maya, and it worked pretty well. This is a short extract of the movie, and all the pens we got from the company. We got IHS data. Oops. Okay. We got IHS data from the company, and this we converted in 3D Studio Max, and then exported it to Blender using the OBJ format. But the conversion from IHS to the polygonal model was not very clean, so we remodeled all the pens completely in Blender and then put it back to Max for rendering. It was quite a lot of work. And for instance, in this, the typography is rendered in Maya, and the pen was rendered in Max, and it fits perfectly together. You can see it at the edge, you see nothing. This part. And since we can do this with Blender now, we can use it a lot more. the pipeline is to keep it real simple and easy to maintain and very fast, and everything needs to be very safe because most of our projects are like 1 or 2 weeks, and if something happens, then it's a huge risk, and then we will have to work at night and weekend and stay 3 days in the office, and we try to avoid this as much as possible. Here are some screenshots from Blender when we modeled these events. It's just some screenshots from the modeling. There's nothing much to say for this. And last year, we were working on a short movie. This short movie was co-produced with our Mexican cooperation partner company. It's called Aroba Films, and we worked together since 2000. And we already did a feature film where we worked as collaboration partners. And we then in 2005, the director from Aroba Films came to us, and he wrote a little short story, and we got the idea to make a short movie out of it. And this short movie, this was also a pipeline test for an upcoming feature film which we do together, and just to test how we can work over the Atlantic and how many data we can handle and how many images we can create in one time. And I show you a little extract of this short movie. It's a very artsy kind of movie, or the director calls it a digital extravaganza. That's it. It's like 2 minutes of the movie. The complete movie is about 8
The
minutes.
photon awoke from the dreamlike state induced by the constant movement of the blue surface. The protocol asked for him to clone into a Lux photon, the kind that absorbs and emits energy from dying objects to newly born matter. Once he was ready, he contacted Jaren, who could get to any point in the universe using his one-dimensional platform. The transmission of the captain's dreams was closer to an emotional connection than to actual images. Jaren felt life withering away.
Basically everything what you could see in this part was modeled in Blender. Unfortunately, I cannot show you more here in public because we applied at a couple of festivals with this movie for next year, and you cannot show a complete movie in a public space or where you have someone recording. So here, this is screenshots of the models of the model in Blender. And for this movie, we also developed some little scripts like to line up textures. The director always wanted that we have to destroy Capitol in the movie release because it is Mexican. We wrote a couple of scripts. That's great. To arrange the UV maps like they fit together, and also to automatically destroy or put noise onto the drawings. These are the scripts, screenshots of scripts. These also can be downloaded at the personal webpage of my colleague, and you can find the link on our webpage too. All the textures were done in GIMP. There's nothing much to say about this. Here are some 360s of the models. This is rendered out of Blender for test. These were tests. There's a lot of ruins. A little bit forward. And these ruins we put together into sectors because we could not render the complete town in one go. So we made a couple of these sectors where we had a couple of ruin models put together. And I think in the end we had 26 or something sectors like this which we put together to the complete town. I think these are already 2 sectors put together in one scene. And we just composed it for the Z channel infusion in the end. The space shuttle, actually, we had a very low poly model of a space shuttle. I think it came with a book or something. And we took this in Blender and used it as a template to remodel the space shuttle in more high-res. This was a test of the bunker you just saw, and it was just to check if the textures and everything is in place. Is also rendered out of Blender, like as it is. This was the laboratory. Okay. Next. And now we are currently working on this feature film. It's called El Baile de San Juan. It's the same director, and we do all the modeling in Blender, of course, and mapping, everything. Yeah. These are some examples of our current work. Actually, this was in summer. Right now we do pre-visualization. It's different. The task in this movie, sorry, I forgot to say, what we have to do in this movie is that we have to recreate the city center of Mexico City in the 1790, the 18th century, because it's a historical movie. And the main plaza in Mexico City, if you want to shoot there, you have to completely close it, and I think the traffic will break down if you have to close it for 1 or 2 days. So we cannot shoot there. We have to rebuild all the city center, and we will shoot in the studio in front of green, and then just put the set extensions behind it. This is the Metropolitan Cathedral. It's the biggest cathedral there in Mexico City. This is all not finished. There are some parts missing. This is the President Palace. What we don't do is we don't do an historical reconstruction. We try to get it historical right, but we only build these parts which we really need. We don't build the complete thing. Only this what will be seen in the movie. And also sometimes when the director comes and he has a different idea what he wants to show in his movie, and he needs something what was not there in 1790, so we just put it in. As long as the illusion that it's 1719 is correct, nobody is sitting in the kino and saying, oh, this is not 1790. As long as this is okay, then it's okay for us. I saw for flickering with some tests, it's 360s of the Metropolitan Cathedral. And this thing will play a role in the movie. It's like an Aztec god. It's called Coatlica. I don't really remember what it was. I think it was the mother of the gods or the mother of the world or something like this. But this is also an unfinished version. It's not complete. And then in this time in Mexico City, they had canals or channels like in Venice, because the town is built on a lake. So we will build a small canal in the studio, but we have to extend these also. And to do this, we are evaluating the fluids, the blender fluids. These are some early tests. So you see, it's way too big, everything. But I think it will work to build these canals with fluids. We have some boats going there. And we do a lot of this stuff at the moment. This test. It's not correct, it looks like a tanker or something. It's not like a little boat. So my conclusion about Blender in a visual effects pipeline for small studios, I can only talk about my own situation, is that it's a real cost saver, because you can save a lot of money for software licenses, and then you save cost, you save risk. The less money you have to put into a project, the less risk you have. And it integrates well with commercial tools, so no problem. I must say I don't see any problems to use it in commercial pipelines. The only problem is it's kind of hard to get freelancers with production experience, because we don't have a lot of time to train people, since our project is 1 or 2 weeks and then it's over. So if anyone is interested in working for us as freelancer, you can talk to me after this talk, and I'll give you my card, and then we can get in contact. And that's it. Any questions?
I saw your models are like very polygonal models. I don't know if you have this experience modeling stuff in polygonal ways, or you have some experience modeling with NURBS too, and later exporting into Blender as a polygonal shape.
I must say I worked with NURBS like a couple of years ago, but if you do animation, there's only some cases where NURBS are really good, because they are slow to render, and we are kind of limited with animating it, and so it's very certain that we use NURBS patches, maybe in Max patches we use sometimes, but mostly it's polygonal. And with subsurfaces, no problem, I think.
So you think that for making the shape, perhaps you can rely on NURBS, but not for rendering tasks, right?
Sorry, again,
for modeling, perhaps for making the idea of the shape of this cathedral, for instance, you could use NURBS, but later on you prefer to use polygons, right?
Yeah, but NURBS, I think for the cathedral, if you take the cathedral as an example, it's like this architectural stuff. You don't need knobs at all. It will only slow you down. Knobs you could use for very organic things or cars, things like this, very, very organic shapes. This is what knobs is good for, but for architecture, I think it's my opinion.
For these pens you use to model too.
Yeah, the pens originally the IHS data was knobs, but if we should have to render this stuff, we would never have finished the project. We would still render. So we converted it to polygons, and then we had to clean a lot out. So, yeah. But sometimes, for instance, I think the car, if you have a car, it's good to model in knobs. And then it depends on what you have to do. If you have a lot of time, or you can also render the knobs, or if you make like a still, you can render knobs. Of course, it's more fun, but if you have to make an animation, like a 1 or 2 minutes animation, you have 2 days to finish it, you should try to get more efficient, and in my opinion, the polygonal stuff is more efficient.
What do you do with the rendering? On what machine do you render? And do you ever get in problems if you have a deadline, 2 weeks, and maybe it's 2 weeks rendering, something like that?
Also, when we start a project, when we do the calculation, or we get the request of what the client wants to have from us, we do a calculation, and also we calculate the times of how much we can render. Let's say we have 5 days for render and 5 days for animation, and then we have a render farm with 10 computers, and then the other machines, I think altogether we have 20 computers for rendering, and so we calculate this in, how many computers we have, and how long a frame could be. So let's say in the end I can say we have, if we have 5,000 frames, then one frame can only render 1 minute. And then we make the render test. If it renders longer than 1 minute, you have to find a solution that we get under 1 minute. And then you always have to find the right compromise between quality and speed. And then if you have to finish fast, you have to go down with quality.
But you don't go to render farms, commercial render farms? Or
No, not now. We did not do this.
And you also do the rendering for the movie, so.
Yeah.
So I can imagine that if you do something like the pens, or that it's more easy to render than if you have to render a big movie.
Yeah, but for instance in this movie, what we will do a lot of tricks. For instance, we will bake the global illumination, so we don't have to render it anymore. We just render normal light. And then we can also render environment maps out of geometry, so we only have one image, and then we put everything together in Fusion. So we will do a lot of tricks. It's not like that we have for each shot we will place the complete 3D model. We will fake it. We will try to do as much as possible in the compositing.
Anybody else?
Yep. What renderer do you use? Do you use the Blender internal renderer, or only for the test shots?
For the tests, we use the Blender internal renderer, and we did not really render in Blender for some projects, only very small stuff, and we always use the internal renderer. And I think we did some tests, and I think we will stick with it for the moment.
And for the production and the final renderings, what do you use?
Normally Mental Ray.
Oh.
Anybody else?
Okay.